Hey everybody, Bob Chick back with another episode of The Voice of Bodybuilding. This week, of course, the Arnold is only days away. You know what that means. We've got to do the preview and, of course, the all-important predictions to see if Bob Stradamus can once again nail the picks. Always an interesting deal, but I got to give a quick shout-out to my man Sean Ray out there. Now, Sean has put together, with the help of Dr. Morales, our good friend out of Texas, everybody knows the doc out there, plastic surgeon. His wife competes also, so both of them competing as pros. But the doc is a pro in classic physique. Wanted to give away a little something back to the sport and the community. So they have come up with $10,000 that it's going to be presented to the best poser at the Arnold coming up this week. Now, that's going to be in the classic division. So it's going to be very cool. I'm sure Logan Franklin's very pleased with that, as he's one of the most prolific posers we have in the IFBB right now. So I'm sure he's got his eyes set on that prize. So big shout out to Sean Ray and Dr. Morales. We'll see you guys in just a few days, as we'll be taking off Thursday for Columbus, Ohio, and to see Arnold and the crew. It'll be great to see some familiar faces out there finally, as the Arnold was originally slated in March, as everybody knows. And here we are in September. So at least the show will go on. From what I understand, Arnold did not want to miss a year. So they are going 4 divisions being represented. So it's not the full Arnold. And they don't have the expo attached. I don't know if there's going to be any booths or some representation, but definitely not the full expo like everybody's used to. 4 division defending champs. We'll get into that in just a bit as we go through. But all 4 divisions have returning champions. They're going to be defending their titles. So that's going to be real interesting. But we're going to delve right into this, folks, because we've got a lot to get to. All right, your lineup in the men's open. Now, as I explained in the last podcast, only the men's open qualifies for this year's Olympia, coming up in just 3 weeks now. So just 2 weeks separating the Arnold and the Olympia. So only the men's winner moving on. The other 3 divisions, which I don't think is really relevant anyways, because I believe all those people are qualified anyways. But in this case, winners of the other divisions will qualify for next year's Olympia. So they still got something on the line. And points. Points awarded will not go towards this year's Olympia either. They made an exception because of the entirety of the show and the point system and all that, being that the Arnold was supposed to be in March. And we're already down in a few shows from our gentlemen this year, especially overseas because of the COVID restrictions. They decided they wanted to give an exception and an exemption to the Arnold to still qualify. I thought that was a great move from the Pro League. But all right, let's get into our lineup. So from what I can see, barring anybody that can't make it, I do understand that Lionel Bayecki will not be making it. I think he's already off the list. He's had a problem the last, it's got to be 3 or 4, even 5 shows, getting himself over to the USA to compete. I personally have seen his name on 2 or 3 shows that I've been calling the shots on stage, that his name was initially on the list and then he couldn't make it. So I don't know if he's got visa problems getting out of France, believing he's still living there, or what the deal is. But time is ticking, man. I mean, bodybuilding is not a game where you want to lose 2-3 years for any good reason. Physiques do not age like fine wine, trust me. So let's work with not who's not going to be there, but who is going to be there. First and foremost, William the Conqueror. Bonac is back. He's a defending champ. He's got 3 Arnold titles to his credit. Now, some people only count 2 because they're only counting Ohio. Now, that's not really fair. I mean, I do get in the old days with Flex Wheeler and even Dexter, because Dexter didn't want to claim any beating of Flex if he were able to get to 5 titles, Flex having 4 for many years. Flex won 4 in Columbus. There weren't any other Arnolds back then. Those weren't added until years later. But to his credit, Bonac's got 2 in Ohio, and he's got another one in Australia, I believe. That makes him not only the returning champ, but the man to beat. Now, this is an interesting scenario because as we go through our lineup, you're going to see you got some big boys up on this lineup, and then you've got Bonac, who's the smallest guy comparatively. Now, when we're talking about small, we're really talking about height in bodybuilding. He's got as much muscle packed on his frame as he can possibly get. Actually, one of the detriments to Bonac is that if he puts on more muscle, like a couple of years ago, I think it was maybe 2 years ago, it could be 3, that he came in probably about 5 or 6 pounds heavier, but all he did was look blockier. You cannot put another ounce of muscle on his short and smaller frame. He's packed out, but listen, it's formidable. This guy's been runner-up at the O. 3 Arnold wins to his credit. He's beaten Big Ramy in the past. You can look that one up. Trust me on this one. So it's Bonak's show to win or lose. On paper, he's the guy to beat. Now, let's get into the competition because I've got, in no particular order, all right, let's just go down some lists that I've got here. You've got Kuklo, you've got Mad Max. Although I think we're going with Real Steel now because he actually got on me because he didn't like the nickname Mad Max. This is, well, can we break it down a little bit? Can you be like pissed off Max or not in a good mood Max or nah? So we just went and changed it up. So I think he's going by Real Steel now, which is actually a pretty cool nickname. You got Sergio, you got Sung Chol Lee, Muhammad El Imam, Hasan Mustafa, more muscle than anybody on the stage, Justin Rodriguez, Ian Valliere, I want to make sure I get that right, our good friend from Canada. I was actually calling him Valliere, trying to do the French thing there, a couple of shows. It turns out I was wrong. It's actually Valliere. So we'll try to get that right on stage this year. Relative newcomer Nick Walker and Big Akeem Williams. Now, that is a great lineup, but I can almost perfectly split this into 2 groups, which we're going to do in a few minutes. Kuklo, one of the bigger guys on the stage at nearly 6 foot tall. If not, he's got to go a good 270 or so on stage. Steve's a big kid. 4th last year, all right, very formidable because it was a big lineup. Don't forget Dexter Jackson was in the lineup last year. Dexter now retired and enjoying his time away from the stage. Sergio was 5th last year, and if anybody remembers, he actually won the Best Poser as given out by Arnold in the Men's Open. I believe that award is still in place this year, and Sergio will be gunning for it. He's very inventive with his posing. I love seeing Sergio. A lot of people don't get Sergio, but we'll get into that more as we go. I've always liked the kid. Great sense. He's got a real quirky, odd sense of humor, which I find hilarious. Some people don't get it. But I tell you this, he's been off stage all year. He's been putting on some muscle. If this kid comes in about 5 pounds heavier with the same quality, he's going to be in the mix to win this competition. Sung Chol Lee, we don't know a lot about the newcomer, but he's got a lot of muscle in his frame. Muhammad El Imam and Hasan Mustafa, 2 guys represent the Middle East. Both of them a formidable amount of muscle. Hasan Mustafa is just loaded. This guy's got more muscle, literally, than anybody else on the stage. But he has yet to dial it in. He can't get the conditioning quite right yet. That's serving to be a problem. He's in the mix every show, but he's just got that little bit of film, and he's like 95 to 97%. Great, except you got other IFBB pros on stage with you, and a lot of them are closer to 100%. It's enough to keep you out of the top 3, that's for sure. Justin Rodriguez, probably one of the lesser celebrated guys, but Justin's got a few wins to his credit, some New York Pro victories, and he's one of those guys that can sneak up on you. Ian Valliere has been on fire this year. This kid's hit his stride. He's in the mix. He's very consistent. He's a big kid. He's bigger than you think he is. He's one of those guys that he doesn't really get put in there with the mass monsters, so to say, but he's a big boy. Nick Walker and Akeem Williams. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at this objectively. Now, if I look at the 2020 Olympia, okay, and we go down that list, a lot of these guys that were in the Olympia are in the same show here at the Arnold. 2020 Olympia, their placings respectfully. 5th was Bonak. And obviously we had Phil Heath in the lineup and Dexter Jackson. Neither of those guys obviously present now, but regardless, I don't think irregardless is a word. You can't discount that because Bonak earned his placing. He's still in the top 5, but he's the highest ranking guy that's in the competition. Okay, 6 was Akeem Williams. Great positioning for Akeem at last year's Olympia. Really came into his own. I'll tell you, he was fighting for that top 5. He wasn't off by much, I can tell you that. You had Ian in 7th, Justin Rodriguez in 10th, Sung Chol Lee in 12th, and Max Charles in 13th. Okay, so that was the Olympia lineup. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 6 guys. All right, your top-ranked 6 guys that are in the mix here at the Arnold. Now, the guy that notably absent from that, 2 guys, is Kuklo and Sergio. That makes things interesting because both these guys are contenders. Either one of these guys could win this competition, as almost all these guys have beaten each other. Now, Bonac has beaten more people than anybody else out of this lineup. But if you insert those two guys, that really gives you an idea of where this placings might come in. Now, of course, it's always subject to who shows up on game day. We can do this paperwork all day long, and I'm a numbers guy, so I like to kind of look at it, see the past, see how the placings are, individual matchups, because some guys compare against other guys a lot better. Now, what you've got here is you've got some big boys in here. Kuklo, Sergio's another one. Now, Sergio is about 5'10", 5'11". He's not short. I don't know where some of these people, I see some of the responses on Instagram and some of these posts. These are not small people. Kuklo, Sergio, Ian, and Akeem are big boys. They're all taller than 5'10", and they all go anywhere between, I don't know, I'll just take a guess, 245 and 270 something. Big Akeem and Kuklo probably being the two biggest guys in the show size-wise. Okay, so let's just stick with that for a minute. Now, I want to stick with these guys for a moment because this is where it gets interesting. First call out, the all-important first call. You're going to see these gentlemen come out. They're all going to present themselves in the individual round. Then Big Steve, who I believe will be the head judge at the Arnold, will make a first call out. Now, what the judges do is they put their assessments together, and pretty much you're going to cut it. Now, there's only 10 guys, so obviously you're going to cut it into probably 2 or 3 groups, okay? Basically, you're looking for your top 4 to 6, depending on who's in shape. Now, sometimes it can be less, sometimes it could be more. All depends on who shows up on game day in condition, looking like they need to be looking. Anything can change, all right? We've seen people come way off, and we've seen people come in way on, and it can make a huge difference. So, size-wise, though, look what you got. Sergio, Ian, Kuklo, Akeem, okay? All similar in their size. Bonac and Nick Walker, all right? Now, Nick is a huge unknown, all right? He hasn't been around long enough that we've really gotten a look. He's done tremendous, obviously, in the short time that he's been on a pro league stage. But this is going to be his first true test at the Olympia. Now, that said, we've got to look at the other crew that's in this top. Kuklo, Akeem, Ian, and Sergio are also all very similar. Similar size, similar height, similar muscularity. So this gives kind of an interesting scenario for the judges. Now, conceivably, could all 6 of the guys I just mentioned get called out in the first call out? Probably. Again, just going off paper and what we know, if I was guessing, I would say your first call out will be Bonac, Sergio, Ian, Kuklo, Akeem, and Nick Walker. 6 guys to be compared. And then you've got almost a whole second crew. It's almost 1 and 2. Max Charles, Justin Rodriguez, Sung Chol Lee, Muhammad, and Hasan. I could see them being in group 2. I'm not sure any one of those guys can challenge anybody in group 1. Now, again, we're assuming that people come in. We always got to go with the assumption everybody comes in on. Otherwise, it's impossible to make any kind of prediction because there's too many variables. So we're going to go with the idea that everybody's on the money, all right? If I go by records, that's why I can split that in half. With all due respect to Max, Justin, Sung Chol, Mo, and Hasan, most of those guys have not beaten the guys ahead of them in head-to-head matchups over the past 3 years. Now, you got a new guy like Nick. Now, he's the unknown because he hasn't been around for 3 years. So I'm going to take a stab and say that he can hang with those guys, given his muscularity and his thickness. His front-to-back thickness is probably better than anybody's on that stage. So Akeem, I want to focus on him just for a second. Akeem was 6, I believe, at last year's Olympia, which was a tremendous placing for Akeem because I don't think a lot of people had him up that high. But that's why I say there's always the underdog or the variable if somebody nails it. And Akeem was very close to nailing it. He could have taken a few more out of there if he was just a hair drier. Now, Akeem's Achilles heel seems to be the back. And when I say the back, it ain't muscularity because he's got the biggest back up there, but it's conditioning. His front-to-back conditioning, very similar to Lionel Bayeki, where he comes out from the front and you go, whoa, this guy might win this whole show. And you see a couple of mandatories and you're nodding your head. And then when they turn around, it's like two different people. Not as conditioned from the back, a little bit softer from the back, but he looks like he's on the right path. Whatever changes he's doing, whether that's bringing the total body fat down, water, whatever you want to call it, everybody's physique's a little different. It's usually top to bottom that you see discrepancies, especially with women competitors, as they will tend to hold more fat and water in the lower body. But you do see that generally with more people, men or women. Front to back is a little odd, but we have seen it. Like I say, with the two gentlemen I just mentioned, he seems to have a better handle on that, which is why he plays so high in the Olympia. Can that transfer over to the Arnold? Well, only if he brings that again, or if he can even sacrifice a few pounds. He's got all the muscle in the world. He could literally sacrifice a few pounds to get that conditioning, and he would be in the hunt for that top three. Kuklo is very similar, but only in the fact that he doesn't have as deep a separation. He's in condition. I mean, this is a big kid. You're talking 5'11", 6 feet tall, 270-something pounds. Steve will be one of the biggest guys out there. He's got the wide shoulders. He's got the relative small waist for a big man. He's got the flaring thighs. It's only conditioning, and when I say conditioning, I'm talking about deepness of the cuts, a separation of muscle groups. I don't think it's a training thing. I thought it might have been that when he first came out, but he's been around too long now. Where Steve has to try to get is he's got to maybe bring it down another notch or two to see if that will help him get that deeper separation and conditioning. If he nails that, he'll beat everybody. He's got the best physique overall, structurally, out there. So if Kuklo can nail it, and he's got to nail it because this is it for some of these guys. This is the last chance saloon. You're either qualifying here or you're going home. There is no more qualifications to be put out there, not by points and not by a win. This is it. Now, some of the guys obviously are not looking to win. I mean, everybody's always looking to win. We all know that. But realistically, they've got different goals. If you're a Hasan Mustafa, listen, you're looking for a good placing at this point. Of course, everybody's looking for number one. That's what every bodybuilder does, and that's everything that they should do. You should always be competing to get in the winner's circle. Otherwise, what's the point? So now, the big unknown. You've got Ian and you've got Sergio. Again, both match up very well. We've seen Ian all year, and he has yet to come in off. He has fought or won for every single title that he's gotten this past season, and he shows no signs of slowing down. He's bigger than you think he is. He's got a lot of muscle. Structurally, he's put together. He's missing a few things. He doesn't flow the best like a Kuklo does, but he makes up for it in conditioning, and he's a fighter. He goes out there, and he does not let down. Steve beat these guys into a pulp at the last show, and he just kept saying, bring it on, let's go, because it was that close. You knew it was going to be a one-point decision. Sergio was the big unknown here. I like Sergio a lot. Clearly, he's got the genetics. He's bigger than you think he is. Again, he doesn't get a lot of credit as being a, quote, mass monster or a big boy. Trust me, folks, if you see him in person, it's only because of his structure that you don't think because he's put together a little bit better than most of the other guys. He's right up there in terms of Kuklo, in terms of, all right, these are two guys that could give Bonac all they can handle. They're bigger than Bonac, they're taller than Bonac, they're wider than Bonac. Bonac's got that quality, though. You can't take that away from him. Bonac is the most consistent guy, short of Dexter, who's not retired, that we've got on the pro league stage. He's never off. Never. It's just different degrees of Bonac that you get. He was a little bigger the other year, but he was still on. It made him a little blockier. It affected his placing. He corrected it. Boom. Next year, he's in for the hunt of the Olympia title. And he's beaten Big Ramy. Listen, all you got to do is a quick Google search, everybody. And if everybody thinks Big Ramy's a shoo-in for the Olympia in just a few weeks, I got news for you. It's his show to lose and his show to win. But he's not a shoo-in. He's got to nail it again. If he nails it, he's going to be hard. He's going to be tough to beat. Let's face it. That's too much muscle to turn away from, especially against the other guys. But we'll get into the Olympia preview next week as we do that preview. And, of course, by then we'll have results from this Arnold. So we're going to see how close I can get to these predictions. But it's going to be interesting to see. I'm going to put Sergio up a spot. I think you're going to see some changes. He's been off stage all year. He's had all year to prepare. I believe he's put on a little bit of muscle. If he nails his conditioning, he can easily go as high as second, I think. It's going to be interesting to see where these guys in the middle fall. Kuglo just competed, came up a little short, unfortunately. That's why he's here at the Arnold. And Ian's competed throughout the year. So how long can he hold on is the question. It's tough for the big guys to get in shape month after month after month. And then it's been a long year for these guys. If you start at the beginning of the year, it's a long year. Trust me, I have been there and I've done that. I can tell you firsthand, not easy to do, but you pull out all the stops. What you hope for is that the Olympia isn't your worst conditioning of the year because your body's shot by the time you get there. All right, so top 6, where am I going? In order, okay? In order. I'm going to go with Bonac to repeat, to retain the title, 3-peat as it would be. I'm going to put Sergio in second. Going to go out on the short limb there. My man Sergio. I got a lot of faith. I think he's got the tools. I think he's more complete than some of the other names we're going to mention. I'm going to go with Ian to hang on in the 3rd place. Kuglo, love you, Steve, but he's got his hands full with these guys. He could prove me wrong. Kuglo could he could be 4th or he could be 1st. It's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. Akeem in 5th, and only because I think from the back he's going to have a little tougher time. Those guys turn around. A lot of those guys are tremendous from the back, and that's his weak point. And listen, forget the old adage that shoulders are won from the back. Listen, that's nice to say, and it's kind of cool because we all get what it means because obviously the glutes and the real conditioning. If you can get the glutes and the hams and conditioned, then you've gotten as conditioned as you could possibly get. So that's where the saying comes from. But shoulders aren't won from the back. They're won from the side, from the front, from the back, from the comparisons. They're one from all over, trust me. And I'm going to have Nick in my top 6. I'm going to have him in there at 6th place. So I think he's a good newcomer, a lot of muscle. He's thick. He's not the biggest guy out there in terms of structure and height, but I think he can hang. Past that, it can go anywhere. If I had to just pick an order, I'd go with Max, Justin, Sung Chol, Muhammad, and Hasan to wrap things up. So that's my prediction. We're going to see how close I get. We'll actually do a percentage breakdown on the next episode because that will be post-show, and that's always more fun to talk about as we'll have results. Couple quick shout-outs. Classic Physique, like I said, $10,000 best presentation or best poser, whatever you want to call it, that Sean Ray put together with Dr. Morales. These guys will actually be looking to get, that's 10 grand in your pocket. That's good money where I come from. Alex Cambronero, the champ of last year. This is a guy who does not make the headlines very much, very unheralded, but you know what? What a tremendous physique Alex has got. He's going to be hard to beat. He's that good. He's so complete, such a pretty physique, that if he nails it, he's automatically going to be in the top 3. No question. It's not passed it by. He's got ample size. He's got ample structure, shape, symmetry, beautiful poser. Speaking of which, Logan Franklin, my man. Big shout out to Logan out there. Probably one of the best pure posers I've seen in a long time. He's got a great shot at this $10,000. He's also got a great shot of placing very high. It's going to be hard to beat an Alex or some of these other names that we're going to come up with, including Terence Ruffin. Now, Terence Ruffin, I got to give credit, man. This kid can pose. It'll be him and Logan for that $10,000 prize, I can tell you that. He's got some of the best pure posing I've seen since the old timers. And when I say old timers, I'm talking about my friend Sean Ray, who's old, as he just turned 56. By the way, congratulations, Sean, on your 56th birthday. Also, make it your Raiders are 1-0. Enjoy that while you can. They'll be 500 in just a few games. And being the only black guy at the Kiss concert last week celebrating your birthday. So, got to give my hat off to you for that one, especially for that one, bro. Love you, Sean. Terence Ruffin, Tony Tavares. This guy is a talent. He's out of Texas. I've seen Tony compete a number of times now. He's going to be one of those guys that's going to raise a few eyebrows when he walks out there. I'm not going to put Danny Unin in there as a dark horse, and I'll tell you why. Because he's not a dark horse. Danny is tremendous. Great physique. He's absolutely a top 3, top 4 guy. Literally just depends on how much he nails it and how he compares with the other top guys. But he's not a dark horse anymore. He was a dark horse 2-3 years ago. This guy's a bona fide competitor, and he's in there for the top 3. I can tell you that right now. Courage Opara, Courage. We've seen him really good, and we've seen him off the mark a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to see where Courage comes in there. Great name, though. You got to love that. Peter Molnar, huge unknown. It's a big question mark at this point. We've seen pictures, we've seen video, we've seen people. He's got a lot of fans out there. People seem to like him. He looks tremendous on camera in terms of pictures and stuff. But we're going to see how that translates, because you can't trust pictures anymore. You can't trust it. Instagram, everybody looks like a world champ. Everybody's a world beater on Instagram. But these filters and Photoshops and things, and I'm not accusing Peter of that. What I'm saying is that you get that a lot with these people these days. By the way, on a side note, not helping you, people. Not helping you. Here's why. All that stuff you put out there with the filters, and again, I've even seen Photoshops that are just crazy. All right, if you've got an eye for bodybuilding, you can tell. God bless Matt Mendenhall, who passed away earlier this year. They keep using this picture of him. That was a tremendous picture to begin with, and they keep using the Photoshop picture, which you can tell is crazy. You can tell it's cartoon, type proportions. You don't have to use it. But here's why I tell all you competitors not to use it. What you're putting out, listen, the judges see your Instagrams. The people that are putting you in the positions that you're going to end up in see this stuff. So if you keep putting out these unrealistic photos and then you show up on game day live, guess what? There ain't no filters on stage. So guess what happens? They're let down. They look and go, man, I thought this guy was better. I saw his pictures online, on his Facebook or his Instagram or whatever. And you don't live up to expectations. Well, they're not expectations you can realistically live up to. Don't be fooled. This is great for your followers and all that. I hope you're making some money out of it, because ultimately it can hurt your placings, all right? Just a word from the wise, all right? Peter Molnar, unknown. We're going to see where he is. Logan Franklin, good young talent. Great kid, by the way. Former U.S. military. He's got a great physique. He's going to be up there in that top 5 mix. Now, he's another one that's competed a lot throughout this season. So hopefully Logan's physique is still responding. He can still bring it and look 100%. He's just fine-tuning it, man. I tell you, he didn't miss it by much last show. He was right there. Easily could have won. So this is a tough one. Classic's going to be a tough one to beat in terms of predictions, but I got to go with the upset here. Terence Ruffin is just absolutely put together, just crazy. This kid he's not the biggest guy. He's one of the smallest competitors I've seen actually out there. But, man, that kid flows. He flows. He's perfectly proportioned. He's got just the right amount of muscle. He just screams classic bodybuilding. And his posing, if you guys ever want to see a good pose, listen, Logan's great. Again, it'll come down to him and Terence. Terence is probably the best pure poser I've seen since the likes of Lee Labrada, Sean Ray, somebody's got Bob Paris, from years ago. We got to go back that far to get pure posers that know what they're doing, that command the audience, command your attention. His choice of music. I'm going to go with Terence Ruffin for the $10,000 Classic Posing Award. I'm also going to go with Terence Ruffin for first place with the upset over Alex Cambronero. And I'm going to say Danny Unin is probably in third place. 4 and 5, that can go in between Tony Tavares, Logan, Peter, and Courage. Those are your top guys. I didn't put the whole lineup out here. Those guys will all be fighting for 4th and 5th. All right, as I said at the top of the show, you've got 4 defending champs coming back. Fitness, my absolute favorite division out of all of them. I love fitness. It brings the energy, it brings the power. I love starting shows with it because you can get the audience involved. Boy, talk about a lineup. Now, I'm not going to go through the entire lineup, but Missy Truscott is your defending champ. She actually went on to win the Olympia, as you all know. So she is the current reigning and defending Olympia champion. Guess who she's competing against? Oksana Grashina, who retired and unretired real quick. But she was gone long enough for Whitney Jones to get a couple of wins in there at the Olympia. All 3 of them are competing in this competition. So you got Miss Olympia, and Miss Olympia, all competing against each other. So clearly there's your top 3, and unless somebody falls off the stage there, what a great matchup between Whitney, Oksana, and Missy. Got to give the edge to Missy. because she is the reigning champ, with all due respect to Oksana and Whitney. Oksana can bring it. Those routines are second to none. She's so inventive, so creative. She's clearly going to be one to beat when it comes to that. For those who don't know, okay, the physique round at the pro level is worth 1/3 of your score. That means 2/3 of your score goes to the routine round. So this can favor an Oksana Grashina if she's not too far behind in the physique round, which Missy clearly and Whitney probably clearly have the edge. They're a little bit more muscular, a little bit more put together. But Missy is also very inventive with her routines. So, and Whitney, she brings like a whole different dimension. She's out of the box, does a lot of breakdancing type moves, stuff like that. Very entertaining to watch. So there's your top three in any particular order, but I'll give the edge to Missy right now. Big shout out to Ariel Kadar and Arika Turgale, because both of them have won shows. They're both great newcomers into the mix. They can bring it as well, but they're going to be hard-pressed to beat these three all Olympia champions. Okay, last division, bikini. Isa Piccini, the champ. Now, we're going to go all the way back to last year, because a lot changed between when she won the Arnold to when she stepped on the Olympia stage and was fighting for the top 5. Now, we haven't seen that in some time. A former Olympia champion usually doesn't fall that far from grace, but her whole physique changed. She came in, she was more muscular, trimmed it down a little bit too much, in my opinion. The judges obviously did not like what they saw, and she was on the outside looking into that top 5. So she's got to kind of get back to specs. She doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. She won the Arnold and she's won the Olympia. So just get back to that. She'll be in contention. But Laura Lee is back. Laura Lee Chapados from Canada. This girl's tremendous. She's got a great physique. She's been as high as second in the Olympia. She'll be here to compete. But man, what a lineup. Jen Dory, Jasmine Gonzalez, Jordan Ann Lee, Ramina Basaldo, Ashley Kaltwasser. What's she done? Well, she's only won 3 Olympia titles and the all-time winningest bikini champ in history. Now, we've seen her kind of go down placings as the season goes on because she competes a lot. So we're going to see if she can still hold her ground, but she's a 3-time champ. Got to keep her in the mix. You got Priscilla, you got Gabby, and you got Brina all in the mix as well. So you got a great bikini lineup here, but again, who's it going to come down to? Isa, Ashley, Laura Lee, and Jennifer Dory. Here's your top 4. If I'm picking a winner, I got to go with Laura Lee. This is a tough one because any one of these girls could win. But I got to go with Laura Lee I shouldn't say or. I got to pick one, right? Or Jennifer Dory. Between those two, I'm going to give the slight edge to Laura Lee. And we're going to see if I can nail that one dead on. All right, that's going to wrap things up for this edition of The Voice of Bodybuilding. We will be back after the Arnold post-show. Lots to talk about. Bob Stradamus, did I get it right? We'll see you in the next episode. We're out.